Hi, everyone. My name is Mona. I work at Forbix and I originate residential, private, and commercial loans. Our office is in Calabasas. And today I am with Shiva talking about credit repair. And Shiva, tell us a bit about, yourself and your background.
Sure, Mona, thanks for having me. So
Thanks for
I
being.
have been a I've been out. I graduated law school 13 years ago. Um, and I started my legal career in New York City and then moved back to Los Angeles. And I have been in the space of I was in a different type of litigation. I have been dealing with consumer credit and debt issues for nearly 7 years now. And our firm, Tier One Credit, focuses on helping people improve, restore, and build their credit. So our primary thing is to help people address negative items on their credit report, like collections, charge-offs, auto repos, all that not so good stuff. And we can also give advice around building credit if you don't have credit, or if you had bad credit and are trying to rebuild besides cleaning up. I have successfully sued and settled with companies like Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, Wells Fargo, a bunch of collection agencies. And in fact, our approach is a legal first approach, meaning every credit report we look at, we first look for legal violations, or if we could set up legal violations, in which case we can get our consumers compensation and get their negative items removed. And if that doesn't seem possible, then we can offer credit repair, where we use our, you know, knowledge and skills as a law firm to address these items, and the clients only pay us if we get it removed. So that's how we work.
What kind of legal issues do you look for?
Oh, so there's a law called the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And basically, what it says is that items on your credit report must be accurate, they must be complete, and they must be timely. So it's not enough that someone has a collection or a credit card charge off that belongs to them. 97, 98% of the accounts I see for our customers, unless it's identity theft, belong to them. But there's different aspects of how it's reported, like the date of first delinquency, the balance, the payment history. Those things can be inaccurate. And if they are, then we have potential to get it removed. And sometimes items are outdated or too old to appear. So that's with non-collections accounts. And with collections accounts, there's a law called the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, or the FDCPA, and it also regulates a lot of the conduct of collection agencies, and they often violate that law. So between these two laws, as well as state laws, we're able to find a lot of mistakes or improper conduct by creditors, credit reporting agencies, and collection agencies, and we can use that to get items removed and maybe even get people compensation.
That determine a credit score? Because I get, I work in mortgage lending, and a lot of times I'll have somebody tell me, oh, I checked my credit on Credit Karma and I'm 8 something, and they really fret about every like 10 10 points, right? 10-point swing. And, I have never ever ran somebody's credit report and had it be identical to whatever it was that they saw online or Credit Karma or something like that. And I think it's because they use different algorithms. I'm not sure, but you tell us.
That's exactly right, Mona. So there's two, well, you just mentioned them. There's two broad categories of credit scores or credit reporting. So one is FICO, that stands for the Fair Isaac Corporation, named after a guy named Fair and a guy named Isaac, last name. But FICO is used for most mortgage, not just most mortgage, most lending decisions. About 85 to 90% of mortgage decisions are made with FICO. And there's many versions of FICO. I mean, you're probably mainly using 2, 4, and 5, which are the mortgage credit scores, but there's ones for auto lending, credit cards, all sorts of stuff. And the FICO scores that are offered for free, through places like Experian or through your bank, those are often different than the mortgage versions. So FICO is the primary one. Then you have the Vantage score, which is a scoring model created by the 3 credit agencies. That's what you find on Credit Karma and Mint and some of those places. FICO and Vantage, there's many versions of FICO, but you'll see some similarity. Like, to your point, if someone has an 800 FICO, their odds are their mortgage FICO will be very good also. But you could have a maybe not 800, maybe a 700 on Credit Karma, but your mortgage FICO could be a lot lower. So within FICO, which is what we're going to focus on, there's 5 factors. The biggest factor, which is 35% of your score, is your payment history. Meaning, do you pay bills on time? Do you pay late? If you pay late, are you really late, like where it goes to collections or charge off or an auto repo or a foreclosure? So if you have a good payment history, your score should be decent. Actually good. That's 35%. Second is, which is 30% of your score, is your debt, more specifically your credit card debt. They look at your credit limits and then your balances. The higher your balances are as compared to your limits, the more it's going to pull your score down. And then if your balances are lower, then your score is going to be better. So ideally, you want your credit card balances to be below 30% of your limit across all your cards in total, right? Even better if it's under 10%. So that's the other factor. The next factor, which is 15% of your score, is your age of credit accounts. So basically, that means the longer your accounts have been open, the better off you are. So this does favor people who are a little bit older and have had credit for longer. But I think if someone starts building credit when they're in college or when they enter the workforce or anytime in there, then within a few years, they could have good credit and they could be able to get a loan. So 15% is your age of accounts. And the biggest tip I could give here is if you've got an old credit card, unless it's got a big annual fee, just leave it open. Let them close it if they're going to close it, but you don't close it. But just make sure you pay it on time and you use it occasionally. And the longer it's open, the better your credit will be. And then 10% is your mix of accounts. And what that means is, like Mona, if you had 2 clients applying for a mortgage and one of them has 3 credit cards and nothing else, the other also has 3 accounts, but it's one auto loan, one student loan, and one credit card. The latter person with the auto, student, and credit card will be better because they've got a better mix of credit. So that's the second to last factor. The last factor is your credit inquiries, meaning how often do you apply for credit? And the good news is if you're applying for a mortgage, you can apply multiple times within a 45-day period and it'll count as a single inquiry. So like if you pull their credit at the start of escrow and then again before you close, it won't necessarily be 2 different inquiries, assuming that was within 45 days, or if someone were rate shopping or, working with a broker like yourself, and okay, you're looking at a few different lenders and they want a different pull, you could do those in a 45-day period. It won't impact you. But that's only for mortgages and auto loans. If someone has got credit cards and you go apply for 10 credit cards in 45 days, they're going to be 10 inquiries. So those are the 5 factors. And basically, if you pay stuff on time, you keep your credit card balances low, you've got different types of credit accounts, and you keep them open for a long time, and you don't apply for credit too often. If you can do those things, you're going to have good credit, no matter what.
Negative items on the credit report, or that you do if somebody comes to you with negative items in there?
So we do a few things, Mona. The first thing is we look at their report and we decide on its face, are there a lot of things that are problems with this report? Are there a lot of things that are mistaken? If so, we'll do a dispute about those items, a general dispute. And if we think there's enough errors and mistakes, we might go ahead and sue the credit agencies at that stage if they're not corrected. But that's a minority of cases. Most people, what we'll do is we'll send certain letters to the credit agencies as well as to the collection agencies. If the collection agencies mess up and violate the law based on what we requested in those letters, then we'll go ahead and sue. If not, we'll continue escalating. We might send demand letters. We have sued a lot of collection agencies and they know that. So often just hearing from us makes them not want to continue collecting because they have 1,000 accounts in collections for 1,000 consumers. They don't want to deal with the 5 or 10 people who have a lawyer handling it. So that's what we do on collections. On credit cards and auto repos, often we file arbitration against the credit card company or the auto lender if we can find things that are mistakes or violations of the law. So we use both the court system as well as arbitration to get negative items addressed. And then in some cases, we can get the client's compensation. In other cases, we get the items removed and they pay us. And yeah, there are some cases where an item cannot be removed. Everything about it's accurate. But if that happens, the client won't pay us anything because we only charge for what we get deleted. So yeah.
That's what, which is how you get paid. If it comes from a client, if it you know, if you're suing, if it comes from the credit agencies, you know, how that works.
Sure. So by law, the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, those two laws I mentioned, they require that, long story short, they require that if someone sues, their attorney's fees, if someone sues and wins in court, the attorney's fees for the consumer has to be paid by the creditor. And typically, as part of a settlement, it's the same thing. So, us or whatever firm we refer it to, we're able to get paid from the settlement independent of what the consumer gets, our fees get paid. So then we don't charge. And the consumer will also recover money. Now, if there's no grounds to sue, then we charge per item deleted. What we charge really varies. I'd say we look at per item, by which I mean one account on one credit bureau. So like if someone has a collection account, is it on TransUnion? Is it on Experian? Is it on Equifax? We count each of those as a separate item. And then we charge per item deleted. It can be as low as $50. If it's a lot more complex, like an auto repo, then it could be a few $100s per deletion just because of the work involved. So it runs on a spectrum, but our goal is always to see if we can find a legal violation and sue, because in those cases, the client gets paid and we make more money. So it's a win-win. But if we don't have that, or if they're in a rush and don't have time to sue, then yeah, we would just charge based on what's removed.
You referred clients back and forth to each other. And whenever I refer someone to you, I always say to them, look, he's got a lot of really good reviews. He's an attorney. You want an attorney handling this because it really makes a difference. And I also tell them that you're a cool guy.
Well, thank you.
So tell us, what do you think is unique about your approach compared to other, you know, credit repair companies? Because I always tell people, you know, something like this, it's best to go with an attorney.
Sure. Well, I appreciate the recommendation, Mona, and I tell them a lot of things that you just said, which is number one, that because we're attorneys, we're able to escalate things a lot more. I've sued the credit agencies, okay, in federal court and in state court, usually in federal. So in certain situations, even if we don't have a lawsuit, we can do disputes and then go to attorneys for the credit agency or their outside law firm and be like, hey, here's the issues. We think you should delete this. And sometimes they'll be like, okay, you know what? Sure. Just because they know that we've sued them and we can do so again. We're suing them every year.
There's a history.
Exactly. And for them, it's like, do you really want to fight about this account, or do you want to risk a lawsuit and have to pay thousands of dollars and pay for your attorney? So we have that relationship. That's number one. Number two is very often it can be cheaper to work with us because since we're attorneys and we can get paid from attorney's fees paid by the collection agency or the credit agency or the creditor, we can look at it and say, look, let's see if we can find legal violations, in which case you pay us nothing. So if you're not an attorney and you're a credit repair company, you can do a great job for someone, but you can't get attorney's fees. So as a result, you can't really sue. So generally the consumer has to pay you. But in some cases, and I want to be clear, not most, but in plenty of cases, our consumers don't know how to pay us anything because we're able to find violations. Or let's say they have 3 or 4 bad accounts and we find something illegal on one account. Maybe I can help them recover money for that account and then they pay me to get the other ones deleted. But because they recovered money from the violations on one account, it basically covered the cost of whatever we did. So even if they paid us, it's like their credit repair was free. Because they got money from one creditor and then they got, paid us for others. So the point is we try to save people money or get them paid wherever possible. And if they do have to pay us, they pay only for results. I don't charge them each month, which is a common model in the industry to charge each month.
So, well, actually, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, well, I mean, I'll say this, and I'm not just saying it because you have me on the Zoom, but I've referred people to Mona, and her work has consistently been great, and the clients were happy. So, yeah, we'll continue, doing so whenever we can.
Well, what we do goes hand in hand, right?
Yep.
It goes hand in hand, and a lot of times, I'll get people, and they won't know they have a late, or they don't know that they had a collection. And I think the biggest one also is they signed for someone else and then that person didn't pay, and then and that's where a lot of issues come up.
Which is a big thing I want to say. Avoid under almost all circumstances co-signing. Like I see so many people, oh, my brother needed a car or my mom needed something, I co-signed. We've even had cases where parents stole their kid's identity because they know their social and opened accounts in their name before the kid was 18. I've had a lot of those. So really be careful about co-signing for anyone. I almost say it's better to lend someone money to help them out than it is to co-sign for them.
I agree. So I work at Forbix. We're in Calabasas, and if anybody wants to reach me, my cell is 818-822-5550, and my email is mona@forbix.com. So if anybody wants to reach you, how do they find you?
Sure. So our website is tier1credit.com. That's TIERONECREDIT.com. Just Google Tier 1 Credit Repair. You'll find us. You can also call our office at 844-684-3766. That'll go directly to our legal assistants. And if you want to email me personally, you can always reach out to me directly. And I'll put you in touch with our team, or if you're a loan officer or a realtor, happy to answer questions. My email is my first name. That's Shiva, SHIVA, at tier1credit.com. So feel free to reach out anytime. And like Mona, I'm also active on LinkedIn, so you can also reach out to me there.
All right, cool. All right, well, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it, and hopefully the folks who who watch this or listen to it can reach out to you if they have any other questions. But thank you.
Well, thank you, Mona. Appreciate the time, and thanks again.
All right, take care. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.